Semicolons. Do you know what those are? Take a look at what we have here, and before I explain it, think about this whole thing here. Semicolon, what is it? That's what it looks like, but how do you think it gets used? So before I explain it, consider it, maybe write down a sentence or two that you think contains a semicolon correctly. Okay, now that you have done that, let me explain a few things to you. And to do that, let me go here and type in a few things. So a semicolon is used just like, or almost just like, a period. Let me get a smaller font here. All right, and let me just type a few sentences here. So you need a complete sentence. So how about this here? The teacher is in his office. All right, you could put a period there. That seems to work right. You have a subject and a verb. Stands on its own. Fine. Now you have another sentence here. The teacher is in his office. He is reading papers. All right, that can stand on its own as well. These are two wonderful sentences. However, you might think these are so closely related that I want to, in this area, give more of a suggestion of their connection. Right there. A period just seems too serious, too abrupt. So if that's the case, there is something available for you, and that is the mighty semicolon. Whoops, so that 6 get there. Let's put this over here. And it looks like that. Look at it closely. A couple of things are important there. One is, go like that. One is, of course, what a semicolon looks like in the space, but also really crucial is that this letter is lowercase, unless it's a word like I or somebody's name that is always capitalized. So this is what it looks like. You have a complete sentence over here and a complete sentence over here. It's not a phrase. Quite often I see after a semicolon a phrase like the teacher is in his office, semicolon, because he is working, period. No, that doesn't work. Complete sentence, complete sentence. That's really, really vital. All right, that's about it for semicolons. Let me just add on a few more things. Often you will see it used with a connecting word, like however. That doesn't quite make sense here. The teacher is in his office, however he is reading papers. You know, if somebody was wondering if they could go visit a teacher for an office hour to converse, and you might say the teacher is in his office, however he is reading papers. So this is a connection word, and by the very nature of the word however, this, however, is connecting this part with this part, right? So that's why there is a relationship between these two. So you'll often see semicolons with words like however, nevertheless, connecting logical words. You also see it a lot with words like, let me get these down here. In fact, let me go like this. With words like he and she and it and you, these tiny little pronouns. All right, so before I go on and say one more thing about semicolons, just remember what this is used for. It is connecting two complete sentences. This could stand on its own. This could stand on its own. But the semicolon is connecting them in some way. All right, now this is how it's used, but there is one very, very rare use of it. And one way to see it is, and I've done this in class, is to write out this sentence. I have lived in, and I will type it out, and how do you think it gets punctuated? I have lived in Cleveland, Ohio, Modesto, California, Boise, Idaho, and Durango, Colorado. All right, take a look at this sentence. How's it look for you? Are you happy with those commas? See a problem with those commas? Yes. The problem is that sometimes there are items in a series that within those items there are commas. Let me explain that a little bit better. Oops, I don't want that one. Let's go here. Cleveland, Ohio, that is a unit. Modesto, California, that is a unit. Boise, I don't think I'll be able to do this over 2 lines, will I? No, you get the idea. In fact, let me get rid of Boise. In Durango, Colorado. So these are 4 places I have lived. I haven't lived in 8 places. I haven't lived in Cleveland and Ohio and Modesto and California, and you get the idea. I've lived in 4 places. Within each of these items, there is a comma. Now you can see this here, right? So to avoid confusion, what belongs to what? I'm getting all confused. That's when this very rare use of a semicolon appears. So you'd put it there. I have lived in Cleveland, Ohio. Ah, okay, those two go together. Modesto, California. Oh, I get it. Those two go together. Boise, Idaho. Those go together. And Durango, Colorado. See? Makes sense. But it's really important that you get the idea that, true, this is not a complete sentence that follows the semicolon or this, which is the rule I mentioned up here. But this is a different circumstance down here. All right? So if you have this rare instance of items in a series that contain commas, you might need a semicolon to make things clear. Otherwise, this is the situation that you will have nearly always. Let me do this over here. Okay, you got it? Here it is right here. And you have a complete sentence, another complete sentence, and to suggest their connection, you have this guy. All right, so keep all that in mind. It can be really useful, but you have to use it correctly. Otherwise, you will create other kinds of monsters, and you don't want that. All right, hope this helps. Bye.